Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is the Blockchain Backer, bringing you the latest cryptocurrency news and analysis. Today, we're taking a peek over here at the Bitcoin price chart, which has been pressing up against $30,000 this morning after being stuck down at this range ever since that liquidation taking place back there on August 18th, August 17th. 2 months of chilling down here. We're finally getting some movement now for Bitcoin, following along with that 2016 timing that we've been talking about for several months now. Of course, as we noticed over here on Bitcoin versus 2014 to 2016, the timing of events of how the structure has played out for Bitcoin has been remarkable, including really getting within like an hour or two for these major movements to happen where ranges get broken after spending 9-10 months consolidating in here and then going into this 200 plus day range, just as we did back in 2015 and 2016. But as we know, we've been reaching that time period of will this thing start to break out in here? And well, we're starting to see some price action emerge over here on Bitcoin, which is quite exciting. Now, of course, we spent a lot of time as well talking about 2020 and what it was like before the run up started for Bitcoin. We had really this exact same thing happen back in 2020 that not many people really talk about, is that there was a huge shakeout of the market that happened. People were screaming for manipulation in the market because it happened so aggressively and unexpectedly there in September of 2020. Half the market participants were calling for Bitcoin to break down from $10,000 all the way back to $4,000 or $3,000, but price just meandered along and then started firing off into the bull run that we all know of 2020 and 2021. We've reference to this to say this is very similar to what we're experiencing right now with Bitcoin, where we have a ridiculous amount of market participants screaming for $12,000. We got death crosses all over the place that are going to send us to Goblin Town, but that wouldn't be an appropriate thing for us to go breaking down lower than where we are at right now if you are a long-term bull on Bitcoin, as it would violate the rules that have happened for Bitcoin in recoveries. If you're looking for a block reward halving pumps, or you're looking for 4-year cycles, that taking out $24,700 would not be reasonable. That in each recovery, we spend time working out an accumulation range, working our way up, backtesting that range, accumulating, working your way up, breaking the range, backtesting the range, accumulation, as we did here in 2011 and 2012. Then, as we did over here in 2015 and 2016, long time period of accumulation, new range, long period of accumulation, new range, and that we were experiencing very similar price action here with Bitcoin here in 2023. But a lot of recency bias points us back to 2019. It's the most recent one that most market participants have gone through. So saying, hey, we're only right here, we still got to go slam back down into the lows, or even, as I saw many times, we're going down to $12,000, which of course, as we all know, would not be reasonable or consistent with past behavior of Bitcoin to go set a new low to $12,000 after this much time has elapsed. But price has been working its way up as we had hoped and as we had anticipated, now waiting for really the bigger kind of breakout as Bitcoin has gotten itself back into the last retracement levels in here of the current range that we've been in for over 200 days. Now we enter into a new phase. I've talked about this a lot. Like if you go back and you did live through 2019, 2018, the market started turning euphoric right here. I have my emotional log. I have it all documented of what it was like being in here. This was the same feelings that a lot of people are experiencing right now. Despondence, numbness, not trusting anything. But once we got through that level, that was where all the excitement began, where it's like, wait a minute, maybe there's more to this rally than perceived, and this isn't just some fake out throwback backtest. And that we've really been in that same kind of scenario right now as prices had gotten back to here, back to these levels of where the breakdown was. There's been all this despondence, 12K calling, worry, fear that, we're going to go shooting back down to the downside. But the second that we get through that level, should we do it above, $32,000, it's where a lot of the excitement would return. Then comes the big question of, all right, is that going to be the end of it, right? This is where finally all the 12K capitulation is going to happen. This is where everybody's going to FOMO into Bitcoin. Nothing else matters but Bitcoin. But we would reach that moment in time where, is this the final stage, right? Is this where the last bears finally capitulate back into the market? So we'll have to take that as it comes, but just know that of course is in the back of my mind as we move forward with this. And my thoughts have been bullish the whole way up. We've watched the 12K callers call for it on every single dip that we've ended up having. That has not been the case here. But if we get one more big leg up, we'll be watching the euphoria. We'll be watching the excitement. We'll see if all the bears dissipate, and we'll just kind of take it as it comes at that point. Now, of course, there has been some interesting behavior in the market that kind of has me intrigued, and we'll talk about that here for a second. Is that one, if you've caught this channel, we've talked about the safety trade dominance. I'm not going to go too deep into that today, but this has been a mirror of what happened during the 2018 to 2019 bear for the cryptocurrency market, where Bitcoin was the only safety play that there was available out there. And we didn't have a stablecoin market. USDT was the only stablecoin that we had, and it represented 0.5% of the cryptocurrency market. However, here in 2022 and 2023, the stablecoin market got as high as 17% of the cryptocurrency market, just between USDT and USDC. We've been monitoring this for several months on end, expecting that we just go flat, which we have for the last 4 months. If you've been catching this content, a mere representation of what happened when the peak of the Bitcoin dominance came in 2019. However, if we do look over here, we do see Bitcoin's dominance is starting to march slightly higher than the June highs. While this hasn't been changing, this has been following along to plan. So what's happening? A lot of this is still rotating within itself, including Ethereum into Bitcoin. But when we go back and we look at Bitcoin's dominance versus the Bitcoin price, we can see that even after the major rally that took place there in the summer and spring of 2019, that had marked the peak of Bitcoin's dominance. It shuffled its way down for over a year until finally one more push back up to the highs, and then boom, full-blown alt season. If we go back to 2014 through 2016, we know based on everything we've looked at, we're hoping that we're in some type of range breakout finally happening in here. This is what we keep looking at over here on Bitcoin. And even in this circumstance, we still don't see dominance go firing to the upside, right? We kind of completed all of that dominance recovery happening in here and during this breakout, which we've seen for Bitcoin currently right now in 2023. But as we exit this range, of course, Bitcoin dominance just continues waffling sideways, and then boom, kind of we go back into a retracement, maybe a little bit of a miniature alt season happens in here, and then Bitcoin's dominance recovers back to the all-time high. But even in this circumstance, we don't see a big run up happening in the dominance, right? No big run here, along with no big run happening in here. So when it comes to the safety trade, as I've expected, we're just beyond the safety trade. So the question is, if Bitcoin dominance is shuffling up, does that mean it's the FOMO for Bitcoin time period, which we historically do see? Which is why we've got this ABC here, ready for the FOMO rally, and we've discussed this several times. But the thing we keep referencing back to is, what if Bitcoin's really going? The price behavior of this little range and what we've done here, where everybody gets shooken out of the market screaming for 12K, is just like what happened in 2020, where the market shook out and everybody's screaming for 3K or 4K. Then the market rallies into a monster bull run. If that's the case, if that's where we're at, and this thing's about to get ripping and roaring, well, that is this phase. That is right here, right? This is what the comparison is that we're using in here, is looking at this zone right here where the market gets shooken out and then we roar. And in that phase, the dominance does rise in there. Is it unreasonable to think we could be this deep into it at this point and already there, and the market is actually that bullish? Well, I've shown on this channel many times, while people do think, due to the recency bias, we're only right here for Bitcoin. We're only, a year and a couple of months into this thing for Bitcoin. The altcoin market really gives us a signal. We're way deeper into it. We're so deep that we're several months past what C19 would have been back in 2018, 19, and 20. You can see that example here on Doge. You can see it over here on Litecoin, that this was the amount of time that we spent in here, where the peak comes in, bottom comes in. There's like your C19 sell-off there with like your August 17th liquidation in the market, indicating that we are way deeper in this market. Even on here, just with Litecoin, that puts you around, May, June of 2020, which already gets you way over here, right? You do XRP, hard to imagine it. You are that deep into this thing as if you're way past C19 already. And really, we can just look all throughout the market to see that, including things like Monero and really all kinds of assets, that we were getting to the point where things started ramping up here with how long we've already been in this for. So if this is the case, if we are actually in a phase like this for Bitcoin, it would be reasonable to see the Bitcoin dominance shoot to the upside. Not out of safety, because we are way past safety. Safety would have concluded a long time ago. 12Kers living in a fantasy. If the market is silly bullish, we could see it. And that would be epic for the whole market to see something like that happen. So seeing Bitcoin dominance rising in an environment like this, when we are not doing safety anymore, could potentially signal the market is actually ramping up. So we'll need to see more come out of Bitcoin dominance, but having an understanding of when Bitcoin dominance rises, when it falls, and knowing that we're beyond safety and what are the circumstances in which Bitcoin dominance rises. It rises during safety seeking, and it rises during FOMO. We're way past safety seeking. We were never convinced about the 12Kers. But in this environment, in this situation of that market rallying up there and roaring, we did see it go. So that is a little bit of confluence to at least temporarily see that price move up there for the dominance. However, keeping in mind, this is just some rotationing happening there between Ethereum and Bitcoin primarily. As we know, Ethereum held itself up incredibly well during the whole bear. Here is 2018 to 2019, where Ethereum's dominance falls from 26% all the way down to 7%. A massive plunge in the dominance of Ethereum. Here's Ethereum during the whole time of 2021, 2022, and 2023. It has held up remarkably well, but finally Ethereum's starting to get a fall. Safety trade follows along precisely. No breakouts happening in here, and a lot of this this percentages is rolling over there into Bitcoin. But still, if this is our case, that's what we actually would expect, is that the dominance would rise if we are actually flipping bull mode on all the way. So potentially an even better sign to see that happening, because like we showed there in 2016, that's not what we had happening in here. The dominance just continued kind of waffling sideways, even when this started moving to the upside, which again, you could see right here. Unlike the rampage to the upside that began in 2020, in which the dominance does rise. So the thing I'll be monitoring moving forward is to see how that behavior happens in here. If Bitcoin can get its way to break out of here, do we see that same scenario? Do you see the dominance continuing to rise as we did in 2020? Or do we behave more muffled as we did over here in 2016? So the differences between the two is that in 2016, when this rally takes place in here, the Bitcoin dominance remains muffled. We still have this huge ABC correction happening in here. You go through the Bitcoin block reward happening, then market finally rampages its way up, and we're still, 6 months, a year away from anything crazy exciting happening. But if the event is like this, if it is something rampaging up right there, we can just take a look at the time of how much that took. Here we are rampaging there October 21st, right? What is today? October 20th, right? Get over here into the very end of December, early January, that Bitcoin dominance is falling and you're in full-blown alt season. The market's completely euphoric by the time you get right here in December. So this scenario is actually super exciting for the market. You have people panicking, freaking out about Bitcoin dominance and thinking that Bitcoin's going to be the only one because the maxis will be super loud. But this scenario led to ultimate excitement of the market very quickly, whereas this was really muffled still for quite some time before things really got carried away, and still took almost a year for that to play out in there. So I'll cheer all day for that to be the case, just to get things moving quickly due to the concern of that stock market. I think the jury is still out due to us still continuing to follow 2016 and the timing of us starting to shift up in here. We've been monitoring this. We've been waiting for something to happen in October because that's when that range did break. We are doing it. There's nothing super convincing in here just yet, but we'll keep an eye to see if we continue that behavior of 2016, which our price action has mirrored for the last over 900 days, and see if that continues with the dominance, or if we start acting more like we did over here in 2020, where things really got ramped up right here at this final moment. Super exciting time of the market, which would have been right in here as this thing started kicking off. So we'll keep our eyes on it. And if you're wanting things to happen much quicker in this market, this is actually the phase we would be cheering for, as this would all mean that, the next 6 months, just constant madness. If you moved at that same velocity, right? If you moved at the same velocity, there's everybody searching for the when moon. I'm giving you examples here of how long it took to play out, but this meant it was all very soon. Whereas in this scenario in here, we still had quite a bit of consolidation to happen in here before this thing finally got going, right? Be like, here you are in May of 2016. Things start getting really crazy March of 2017. So it's still like from where we're at right now in this phase, it would still be 10 months until things got really exciting, then really 12 months before it was full-blown insanity. Whereas right here, the insanity really started relatively quickly. And before we knew it, just 6 months later, it was all over. After full-blown euphoria, excitement, Wall Street bets, laser eyes, diamond hands, all that stuff was within 6 months of this moment right here. So we'll keep our eyes on it. We'll see if Bitcoin can continue marching its way up. It needs to get through the retracement levels still. I'm not going to guess that that's going to happen today, tomorrow, or the next week, or if this range will continue longer in here. But so far, signs are looking pretty good. Again, the thing that totally invalidates all of it is taking out 24,700. You cannot do that based on Bitcoin's historical behavior this deep into the run. All the indicators had already flipped on the monthly timeframes. Holding and maintaining support levels has been mandatory for Bitcoin moving forward. And believe it or not, even in 2019, that this was a support level that was never back tested. When this breakout happened on April 2nd of 2019, and C19 was a backtest of that untested support. We spent 9 months in this range. We've now done 200 days on top of this range, just as we did over here in 2016. This is 10 months and then over 200 days sitting right here on top of the range before we shifted up to the next one. So far, this is still the price behavior we're mirroring. On smaller time frames, we're mirroring a lot of what it was like in 2020 before things ramped up. If we see that Bitcoin dominance ramp up too while Bitcoin's going, maybe a sign of even more exciting times than anticipated, but definitely looking for 20K, 23K, 16K, 12K, all of that stuff. Very inconsistent with Bitcoin's behavior And if we do go take out 24.7, that of course would issue the big massive warning. Something is not right. You would also lose this whole thing happening in here too, right? We'd lose this whole thing. And then for the first time, we start taking out support levels, which is not what we historically do in recoveries. So far, so good. Keep it up, Bitcoin. Let's get this party started. It's an interesting time for a lot of news to be happening because here we are, we're getting what appears to be kind of the start of a ramp up over here on Bitcoin. And then if you missed it yesterday, the SEC dropped all charges against Brad Garlinghouse and Chris Larson of Ripple. That's the third loss that the SEC has taken. One, XRP has been declared not a security by Judge Torres. Two, the courts denied the SEC the opportunity to file an interlocutory appeal. And three, all charges have now been dropped against Brad Garlinghouse and Chris Larson. So that's very exciting for all of that to happen right here, right now, as Bitcoin's potentially ramping up for another move up. And I'll put together a video very specific for XRP later and that whole scenario going on over there. But today I thought it was important to at least cover Bitcoin, and maybe we'll get the other video out later today or at least by tomorrow morning. Otherwise, things looking great over here in the crypto market. We need some more juice out of Bitcoin. We need to get through these retracement levels, and then we'll try to determine after that, if we do get that breakout above 32,000, on whether or not we are just working a retrace or reacting more like 2016, or is this the full-blown bull kicking into steam? And we'll try to look for those signs together to see if we can identify those similarities of when those occurrences have happened in the past. Otherwise, great to see 30K get knocked on this morning. Polar opposite of 12K. We had to fight those for quite a while, but it feels good to see the validation of price moving up when the world was screaming the opposite. So, all right, guys, we'll go ahead and start wrapping this thing up. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you're looking for something to do, of course, you can check out my website over here, which is bcbacker.com. It's a website I put together with over 40 videos and over 11 hours of content, over 11 hours of videos that I personally recorded, teaching you how to set up your own charts and your own indicators within TradingView and CoinTrader Pro, teaching you all about the effective tools, different types of patterns, Wyckoff method, and including accumulation and distribution, along with a highly requested topic, Elliott Wave theory, and then talking a lot about the historical behavior of the cryptocurrency market, including previous bull runs and alt seasons, a lot of lessons that were learned from 2017 and 2021, and then talking about the correlations between Bitcoin and the stock market and the block reward halving. I've also included other data in here, the research data to show how, what was important in 2021, as we saw a very different market in 2021 compared to 2017, whereas in 2017, you saw literally everything boom to the upside with about a 70x return. However, over there in 2021, we really only saw about 2 out of every 10 go up, and the average return was like 13x. Huge difference there in 2021. So I go through a lot of that stuff in there, talking also about percentages, tokenomics, the market cap versus the price chart. Talk about that crowd behavior and meme coins, and of course about emotional management, the thing that's one of the most difficult things out here, which is kind of what we just saw, right? When we saw that liquidation happen back in August. After the liquidation happens, what happens? Everybody sells support wanting 12K. There's also the inclusion of downloadable PDFs in here, so you can download those and print those out for yourself, or save them there to your computer, do whatever you want with them. They're included in a lot of these sections, but there's also a master file in there that you can download. Again, that's 11 hours of videos, me recording, very similar to my YouTube channel, and it's over 40 videos long, and you can check that out over here on bcbacker.com. Otherwise, guys, I want to wish you all a wonderful day. I want to thank you so much for tuning in. If you could, please like this video and give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you could be notified of when I create new content and when I go live. As always, this is not investment advice, and I am not a financial advisor. But if you ever need a pick-me-up or a little bit of reassurance, just remember that the blockchain backers got your back. Have a good one.